Last episode, we ended with how the COVID-19 pandemic left many high schools scrambling for opponents. The OHSAA has allowed all teams to make the state playoffs, so every school became more open to playing against anyone who was available. For Bishop Sycamore, this was a perfect opportunity to bring their program into the spotlight, one that would further expose the lies. Welcome to Scandalous. Fresh off the 4-6 season, Bishop Sycamore put together a new schedule for 2020 against some of Ohio's best teams. Teams like Massillon, Washington, Cleveland St. Ignatius, and Lakewood St. Edwards. These three combined have won several championships in the past decade, and all three have been awarded a high school football national championship at some point throughout their history. To fill the rest of the schedule, they would also play Aurora and Warren G. Harding, who were both perennial playoff contenders, meaning this is no cookie-cutter schedule for any team, much less a second-year club team who had a losing record the year prior. And it was evident for Bishop Sycamore they didn't stand much of a chance, as the Centurions would lose in all of their matchups against the Ohio teams, none of which were closer than a pair of 23-point losses. And the Centurions only had a single game where they scored more than one touchdown, overall being outscored 36-171 in their first 5 games. However, for the final matchup of their regular season, the Centurions would match up with a team I haven't mentioned. This team is one of the greatest high school sports academies across America. This is the same academy that Bishop Sycamore hoped to become within the Midwest, the academy based in Florida known as IMG.
And now Waukee with the hand to Lavoisier Carroll, shot out of a cannon to the 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, 55 yards on the first play from scrimmage from the few quarterback play action. He runs through and bounces into the end zone, touchdown, Lavoisier Carroll. But that will do it for us here at IMG Academy Stadium. Final score 56-6, just an absolutely dominating rushing performance from the Ascenders tonight, and they will send Bishop Sycamore back to Columbus, Ohio.
IMG gave Bishop Sycamore their worst beatdown in program history by a score of 56-6. This IMG team was so good, they would be crowned the high school football national champion for the 2020 season. For Bishop Sycamore, thankfully this loss is behind him. The season's quickly over at 0-6. It is now time to rebuild in the offseason. They knew they weren't ready to compete with the state's best teams, let alone the nation's best. So how would they bounce back? They simply wouldn't. Fast forward to 2021, COVID restrictions have lifted. High schools are getting back into the swing of a 10-game season, and Bishop Sycamore manages to create a schedule so tough that MaxPreps.com had the Centurions ranked 4th for the toughest schedule in the entire nation. And tough the season would be. Their opening week was a near 40-point loss to Akron Archbishop Hoban, who just won the Division II state title in Ohio. The Centurions would then play Pennsylvania's Stowe Rocks Vikings in week 2, which the Vikings would win 19-7. As Bishop Sycamore's losing streak has now reached 9 games dating back to 2019.
August 29th, 2021.
The most infamous day of Bishop Sycamore football history would occur right here in Canton, Ohio. The home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame will now showcase one of Ohio's youngest teams. The next game would be the first opponent that Bishop Sycamore has ever played twice in program history. Who else but the team that just dealt the Centurions their worst loss in the previous season, and it will somehow end up on national television.
Welcome to the 2021 Geico ESPN High School Football Kickoff presented by the United States Marine Corps. IMG Academy out of Florida, a powerhouse against Bishop Sycamore from Ohio. End zone hauled in by Tate with one hand. And reaching across the goal line, it's Carnell Tate. His second touchdown. Still fighting into the end zone from 12 yards out. Welcome to the Katron Allen Show. Trillian Harris will do the punting. He's the quarterback as well. And the kick is blocked out of the end zone. That's a safety. He'll hand it off. It's Gage, and he'll waltz in. 50 for IMG. Clock run down, and that will do it. They win it 58-0 against Bishop Sycamore.
What occurred was a beatdown so bad, so obvious, that ESPN commentators Anish Shroff and Tom Luganbill were vocal about the talent difference between the teams.
Get in. From what we've seen so far, this is not a fair fight, and there's got to be a point now, Lugs, where you do worry about health and safety.
I already am worried about it. I think it's this could potentially be dangerous, given the circumstances and the mismatch that we have here. And quite honestly, Bishop Sycamore doesn't have not only the frontline players, but they don't have the depth in case something were to happen to their roster with maybe a kid or two here throughout the remaining 2.5 quarters of this football game. I'm just really surprised that Bishop Sycamore's head coach has decided against a running clock to this point.
Bishop Sycamore would once again receive their worst loss ever from IMG Academy, this time being 58-0 on national television. Kent Price, the former Point Pleasant athletic director from episode 1, remembers tuning in to that game.
No, it looked like just some guys off the street that they threw out there and put in helmet and shoulder pads, to be honest with you. But still, I'm thinking, that's, if you're not having a nationally televised high school event, you'll probably do a little more background and research.
Finally, the media began to unravel the story, how the program's address wasn't a physical location, how the program has been winless since October 2019, and that their second game against Stowe Rocks was only 2 days before their scheduled match with IMG. Media also covered that several players were graduates and some even played at junior college level football before attending Bishop Sycamore, all of which either increased in quantity or were unfamiliar when Point Pleasant's discoveries were revealed. The story would only worsen when the school announced that they would fire head coach Roy Johnson. Regardless, the scandal finally came to light.
Governor Mike DeWine has asked the Ohio Department of Education to launch an investigation into a Columbus-based school and football team.
Ohio State Governor Mike DeWine declared the next steps taken would be to conduct an investigation through the Ohio Department of Education, uncovering many astonishing facts, including the school's enrollment was a single student. In fact, the number of the students was a note of confusion for many. The Department of Education spoke with Graduation Alliance, the online service program for Bishop Sycamore, said that there were 19 students taking classes. This was different from what was told to USA Today, when Bishop Sycamore coach Andre Peterson stated that the school had 75 to 80 students, still leaving many uncertain of the actual number. Nevertheless, the legitimacy of its history and operation continued to diminish for Bishop Sycamore. The school's name, Bishop Sycamore, implied Catholicism ties. However, the school was never affiliated with the Catholic Diocese of Columbus, and the use of sycamore only existed in the story of Zacchaeus climbing a sycamore tree to see the Lord. But there is no human with the name Sycamore within the Catholic Church's history. And although a Catholic school, there was no confirmation of the school holding religious beliefs, no Bible verse, no mission statement. The school didn't even provide a list of teachers, so classes weren't confirmed to exist. However, there was a paper that stated school began at 7:10 and ended at 3:05. Outside the schedule, it still sounded like it wasn't even a school. There wasn't a criterion for students to be promoted or graduate. Therefore, it lacked the foundation for education. So this begs the question, how could this even operate? Well, the school was classified as a non-charter, non-tax funded private school, meaning there was no affiliation or supervision needed by the Ohio Department of Education. It was just a private school that wasn't supported by tax dollars, and Bishop Sycamore reported the bare minimum of information needed to get by as a private school. What the Department of Education did conclude was the school was indeed a scam, one that lied to student athletes about receiving an education, that it was a private school funded to just play football, meaning there wasn't a single player who graduated from 2019 to 2021. How did the school earn money? How did they increase the quantity of players and students? And how could they lie to these young adults? Who could do such a thing to these players? Only the man in charge of it all. Next on Scandalous.
Roy Johnson, and that's ROYJOHNSON. If what I did was so bad, I have two questions. Why didn't you change the laws, which you're not going to? Why am I not in prison? There's nothing prohibiting Bishop Sycamore from returning.
This episode was written, narrated, and produced by Jake Collins. Music is by Daz Dillinger. Scandalous is an individual project that can be found on your favorite podcasting platform. Tune in next week. This is Scandalous.